my perspective is a bit different from Matti, right? So he look at the academic discourse and then of Chinese IR theory. But since I study economic for my master degree, then I incorporated economic uh, approach to explain the emerging Chinese IR theories. So I take three major approaches. So first, it's of marketing. This has to do with marketing and branding. And then it's a global political economy and global value chain. As I mentioned before, I take an economic approach. And then, of course, sociologies of knowledge production. So that's the main three approaches. So I will go through each argument with pictures. So first, the marketing power, right? So we want to ask the question, actually, what are those like segments for this Chinese IR theory? In other words, right, who are the main audiences? So what they try to, whom they try to talk to. So we can see, a few examples. But as Nikki pointed out, right, there's like 6 different Chinese IR theories. Actually, more than that. But then there are also different variants we should keep in mind. So Chinese IR theory, they are not monolithic. Actually, they're very diverse. So different theories speaks to different audiences, right? But most of them, they try to speak to top universities, and they try to speak to scholars. So that's the general trend. But some other theories, they try to speak to foreign policy circles, and other policies, they try to speak, other theories try to speak to mainstream medias. And then the second point, right, it's about the global value chain point. I think that we should understand this theory in the broader context of the global value chains of higher education. What I mean by that is that, they are part of the process of moving Chinese higher education up in the global value chain in the education sector. Let me show you a few charts. So as you can see, this is the QS global ranking of Chinese universities in social science and management, right? You can see that's the top 200 universities. And then I want to highlight 2 universities, Tsinghua and then Fudan University, because most of the theorists that you see on the list that Nikki just posted, they come from these 2 universities. And then, of course, I'm going to break it down, right? There are 6 components that, combine together to rank the global ranking of universities. So how can people move up the value chain? They have a few strategies, right? You can see, investments, or the SSCI index, SCI index, and then third, you can publish in US and UK university press, and of course, collaborations with top university, and also recruiting the international faculties and students, right? That's also, that increase the ranking. And then now I can show you a few charts. And then you can see China spending, the top 10 countries spend on R&D in 2020. China spends more than $500 billion just to picture that amount of money, right? And then you can see the public expenditures on higher education in China from 2016 to 2019. You can see a drastic increase of amount of money. And then, for Canadians, the audience, or Canadian audience, the $1 Canadian is equals around 5 yuan. So you can do the math. It's a bit too early in the morning, so I won't do the math now. And then I want to highlight, right, in Tsinghua University alone, the planned financial budget in 2019, it's almost 30 billion. So you can divide it by 5. It's almost 6 billion Canadian dollars. So 6 billion Canadian dollar. Just think about that amount. And of course, Tsinghua as a case, you can see the ranking of Tsinghua has been risen a lot, right? 2012, it was ranked around 50, and then it jumped in 2016, and then it keep rising. So we should see Chinese IR in this global trend of pushing up the higher educations in the global value chain. And then also employment reputation. So you can see also the graduate students, the employment rate actually has increased a lot. And then we can see also Chinese IR, right, falls under the subject of law. You can see many students are studying that. And the international students studying China, you can see in 2013 was like this, and then you can see in 2017, right, on the chart. So it increased almost 10 times. That's very impressive. So the higher education, and then we can see the top destinations, right? China is actually ranked the third in 2017. So in fact, it's ahead of Canada. I think many Canadians in the audience, they might be very surprised on that. I was very surprised when I saw this figure. So I would thought that Canada actually has more international students, but actually China has more international students. And then last point, and I'm going to close my argument, is knowledge production. I think the knowledge productions in Chinese IR, they're trending towards more and more the Anglo-Saxon model, and then especially the American version, you know. And then I'm going to, so that's the seminal work of Chinese IR. You can see, right, they mostly publish in English-speaking, by English-speaking publishers. For example, Routledge, Princeton University Press, Oxford Press, right, and Palgrave. So you can see they kind of try to moving up their products. If we see it as a product, right, they want to move to the high end, into the higher global value chain. So going back to my original argument, so we can see the Chinese IR theory as the dependent variable, or like the phenomenon that we try to explain. And then I argue that we can explain through, how they try to do marketing and through the global value chain argument and then knowledge production. And I'm looking forward to debate with you. Yeah, thank you.